And we're live. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get into it. So I want to get talking first and foremost. Look, there's a big story going around today. Manchester United could be set to be banned from the Champions League should Nice qualify, and likewise Nice could also find themselves out of the Champions League if United qualify. This is coming in from Uefa sources. They basically had come up with the information in today's press. I don't know how I feel about this one because, look, on one hand, obviously, the competition does have its rules, and yes, there are rules, regulations, and everything around that side of the game that we will have to abide by, that we will have to follow by. It will be a unique style, really, and a unique outcome coming out of this. United have never had an owner who has owned another football club that might be in the Champions League. How do we feel about this? Do we think it's going to happen? I mean, personally, I'm doubtful. I am doubtful, and the reason why I say that I'm doubtful of this is Sir Jim Ratcliffe is obviously a smart guy. He's a billionaire. I mean, he has spent the best part of a year chasing after and trying to get into Manchester United however he can. I'm pretty sure he would have done his homework, and I'm pretty sure he would know that there are rules around this. And look, there are means and ways that we can get around this type of stuff. I mean, there's two Red Bull teams in the Champions League right now, Salzburg and Leipzig. You know, these are contingencies that we would have come up with. Do I think it's possible? I mean, sure, anything's possible. It's in the rules, after all, that they cannot have two clubs with the same ownership that end up in the Champions League. And look, I think it's interesting. There's definitely ways we can work around this. I mean, we can technically make the split if we want. Nice being owned by INEOS and United being owned by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. It would be a separation in ownership, even if there is a close link between the clubs, of course. But I've no real concerns about this, guys. But let me know your thoughts down below on this one. Let me know if you guys are worried about this. Is this something you would like to see us perhaps cover in a video, perhaps going through the methods and style of ownership? Because right now, everything's very, very unclear. There's a lot of details that we do want to see come out, and they will come out when this buy-in is inevitably finished. Whenever we finally get Jim Ratcliffe over the line and into the club, this stuff will eventually have to come out, but it's not coming out for the minute. I do feel like the delays are kind of feeding these stories as well. I feel like they're kind of feeding some of the false narratives we're seeing, and the sooner we see clarification on the style of ownership, what the makeup of that's going to be, how involved Radcliffe's going to be, how involved INEOS will be, what will be the route to full ownership, I think that's going to be an interesting one, and I think that is something we're going to have to wait and find out for. But I have no real concerns about this rule at this moment in time. I honestly would be very surprised if that was the scenario, that we end up missing out on Champions League because of the ownership model with Jim Ratcliffe and with INEOS. But I think we can put an asterisk under this story. It might be something that comes up again later on down the line, but for the moment, I don't think there's too much to be worried about. Now, look, guys, we're asking on the poll tonight as well about Casemiro. That's probably the other big story we have with Manchester United at this moment in time, is Casemiro potentially looking to leave the club and potentially looking at his future and thinking it might lie elsewhere. Honestly, I'm not too concerned about this. I think Casemiro was always going to be a short-term fix. I don't think it was ever the long-term option. And I think looking at his career right now, where he is in 31, kind of, he's probably looking at it thinking there's another project coming here at United. We might not find ourselves successful for another couple of years. We might have to have a long-term plan. Is he going to be part of that? Will he be in those plans by INEOS, by Radcliffe, by whoever they appoint to make the big footballing calls at the club? Let me know your thoughts down below. Look, the options are yes, we should sell him, no, we shouldn't sell him, and then if the money is good as well. Obviously, Saudi Arabia does look to be the most likely avenue of leaving the club for Casemiro. I would be surprised if he was here next season. I think with his form, with the injuries, and looking at another long-term project, I do think that the likes of Casemiro and Varane could be some of those players that ultimately leave the football club. I think really we have a cohort of players in that kind of age group who will have to find out if they're going to be part of the long-term future. I think we got Casemiro, we got Varane, we got Eriksen, we have Harry Maguire. We can probably add more into that list. Bruno Fernandes coming up to 30 as well. You know, these are players who are coming towards the tail end of their career. Are they going to be in the long-term plans? Will there be a long-term fixture in the club? I think that's going to be something we find out in due time. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts. Get voting on that poll. Look, at the minute, nobody is opposed to selling Casemiro to Saudi Arabia as well. 64% are saying yes, and 36% are saying if the money does end up being good for him to leave the club. Keep those thoughts coming. But look, we're going to go back to this main story because I do feel like this is another one of these stories that come out with a lot of fear mongering, a lot of scaring, and I think we will see these stories grow and continue over time. It's nothing new to us. We know that the press can be sensationalistic when it comes to Manchester United, and of course, as we know, we sell merchandise, we sell the newspapers, we sell the clicks, we get the views. That is what this football club does for a lot of these journalists, a lot of these press outlets. So look, what UEFA has said is, as the rules stand, it is a clear situation. INEOS owns Nice and are set to have a significant role in running Manchester United. Unless the regulations are changed or INEOS sells one of their stakes, they cannot play in European competitions unless one is in the Champions League and another is in the Conference League. I mean, personally, look, I think just going back to this, I think it's an absolutely ridiculous assumption to make that this would not have been anything that Sir Jim Ratcliffe hadn't planned. That wouldn't be anything he hadn't already thought about. I would be absolutely blown away if this is brand new information about this. Look, it seems like the coming up of an old story of something we were warned about a long time ago. Personally, look, I have absolutely no concern whatsoever. And I don't think you guys should either. I think certainly this would have been something Radcliffe would have planned for, certainly would have been something he knew going into this. He probably knew this as soon as he bought over Nice. They probably told him, and he probably found out about these rules long in advance of this. This is something that I do not think we have to be overly concerned about as a fan base. Do I think there's possibility of things coming up, conflicts of interest, maybe players coming from Nice to United players loaned out to Nice to get some experience? Yeah, I do think we could be seeing something along that model. Absolutely we could be, and I think we will be ludicrous really to think that wouldn't happen. Look, ultimately United were one of those teams who midweek voted for the ban of players coming from other leagues and other clubs into a team on loan. And that's something that Newcastle United would like to take advantage of in this transfer window coming up. We were one of the teams that voted against that. Now, ultimately, the ban and the policy, it didn't pass, it didn't go through, it didn't get the required amount of votes from the Premier League. So that's all open country now. That is now something we can look at exploring. We can bring a Tabito or a Thuram or anyone we want from Nice in. Once Radcliffe comes in, these can be deals that we do, and it does make sense to do them. We need the likes of Thuram, we need certainly a player like Tabito in our team, and this is big changes that we can see at the club, and these are things we will be able to do moving forward. But certainly, look, there will be a conflict between United and Nice. This will happen. I'm not sure how it's going to look, but it will happen. Do I think we're going to find ourselves banned from the Champions League? I would be really, really surprised. But anything is possible in this game at the minute. But I guess it's something we have to find out as we go along as well, guys. Get those votes in down below. Can see someone has voted no to selling Casemiro. I mean, look, I think we talked about this last night as well on the show. You know, the likes of Casemiro, Varane, these could be players we end up having to let go as we move on and we move into another project at this club. We're far from the finished article. We're really starting all over again with a new ownership and new ideas and potentially a new manager as well, depending on how Erik Ten Hag's season and fortunes play out. I mean, do I think these guys coming towards the end of their career are going to be here for a long time? I probably don't, and I think we can add a lot of players onto that list. I think we can add the likes of Harry Maguire, we can add the likes of Christian Eriksen, maybe Bruno Fernandes might be one of those players also affected, Lindelof, another player, Johnny Evans probably, that's another one. So I do think we could see a big clear out of a lot of the older type players within the next 2 to 3 years. We really could do, as we look to build a whole new team and a whole new squad behind a new belief and a new identity on the pitch and off the pitch in what we're going to do, how we're going to play. And look, Erik Ten Hag is not going to be safe from that as well. That is key. Certainly, the man who brought the likes of Casemiro to this club, he might end up going before they do. He might end up going at the same time. ultimately, look, big changes are coming in this INEOS bid. Whether we want it, whether we don't want it, it's going to be Jim Radcliffe owning the club. It's going to be Radcliffe Sporting control, and that is going to be something that we have to find out what that's going to look like at this team. Look, there's a Nice model. I don't think we're going to have the same model as Nice. I think there will be bigger transfers at the club, but I do think we're really going to see a revolution off the pitch, a real big change for the first time probably since the Glazers came in the first place. But where that goes, where it takes us, where we're going to end up, I guess we're just going to have to find out on that one, as well. But look, going back to what UEFA were saying as well, they had said multi-club ownership rules. The only way United and Nice can play in Europe in the next campaign is if one sails automatic Champions League spot and the other finishes directly for the Conference League. If both finish in the Champions League spots in their respective division, the team that finishes higher of the two will get the place with the other team banned from Europe. I can't see this happening. I really think this is quite sensationalist news coming out here, and I wouldn't be too concerned if I was you guys as well. Drop a like on the video as well, does help out a lot, of course. And yeah, look, we're live at the earlier time today as well, of 6 p.m. UK time. Have to run out at around about 7 o'clock, so will be a shorter stream tonight as well. Want to get talking on some other subjects. Obviously, as we know, injury crisis, United players missing, players gone for so long this season. Am I froze? What's happened here? Am I froze? I am. Hold up. There we go. I think I'm back. I think we're back now. Am I back? Should be. Yeah, we're back. So yeah, look, obviously Manchester United missed a lot of players with injuries this season, a lot of players with suspension. It's been a very big season in terms of absenteeism, and it's really hurt us at times this year as well. Something we will see is potentially another player going, and that is Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Now, Wan-Bissaka might find himself in a position where he's going to be called up to the African Cup of Nations. He is eligible to play for the Democratic Republic of Congo, and he might end up going there. He has been offered a place in the squad, and he has been offered a call-up potentially, so that could be another player we're without. Just as we're starting to get Luke Shaw back, Lisandro Martinez back, we might be missing Aaron Wan-Bissaka again, which would not be a good fit for Manchester United. Obviously, a player I think has done quite well since he's come back into the fold in many regards, so we might miss out on Aaron Wan-Bissaka for a couple of weeks as well, which certainly is not ideal. It's certainly not something we want to be seeing. We need as much players in this team fit and ready and available. Look, we could lose Hannibal Mesbury, of course. We could be looking on Onana leaving in January as well. So we have a small squad. We have been decimated by injuries, decimated by suspensions, by bad form, by players not being available for selection through one reason or another. I really don't think we can do with another one. It really would be a setback for sure. I'm sure Erik Ten Hag will be absolutely losing his mind if we end up losing Wan-Bissaka as well. But ultimately, there's not too much we can do to stand in the way. If he wants to go for it, he can go for it. Eligible to play for Congo, of course. And I can't see him playing in the England team anytime soon either. Not with Reece James, Trent in there, Kieran Trippier, a lot of top right backs ahead of him. I wouldn't be surprised if he does make that switch of allegiance and plays for Congo in this upcoming African Cup of Nations. It might be something that he does. Ultimately, look, it could be another big absentee for us, another player we end up losing that we do not want to see go either. And as well as that, guys, want to get touching on the Everton match coming up as well. Erik Ten Hag has been speaking to the media today again, and we have some interesting quotes that we want to go through on tonight's show. First and foremost, Facundo Pellistri is injured. He sustained an injury for Uruguay on international duty, probably not going to be available for selection at the weekend. So that's another player injured, which isn't good at all. But look, Erik Ten Hag speaking on Harry Maguire and Raphael Varane, two players, of course, who might find themselves on the way out. Maguire having something of a career resurgence, something of a transformational season so far. And he has said they can play together in certain games, but I thought that from the start when I came here. I want a player on the left of the defence who is comfortable on the left foot, and it gives you better angles, and that is the reason that I've always explained from the start. So that's kind of his thought process behind playing Johnny Evans or Victor Lindelof ahead of Raphael Varane. Of course, he has been speaking more as well He says that's why we brought Martinez to come in to play that left-footed centre-back, but we have in our squad some players who can play left-footed, of course. Lindelof and Shaw are capable of playing that, Johnny Evans as well, and that fits the style of playing. Now, this is something I was talking about last night as well, guys. We might see a situation where Luke Shaw, coming back from injury, doesn't play left-back, but rather plays at left centre-back. That's something we've seen a lot last season, especially when Lisandro Martinez picked up an injury. We did see a combination of Varane and Luke Shaw. We played against that in the Manchester derby at Old Trafford, kept a clean sheet against the likes of Erling Haaland. We've seen Luke Shaw play there before. I think he could come in, certainly in the short term, until Lisandro Martinez is back, fully available, ready to play and ready to be selected. And that mightn't be a bad idea. I think it gives us those passing angles Ten Hag's been talking about. It's a good progressor of the ball. It's a good ball carrier. Someone who can step into midfield. And that's something we've seen a lot last year from Lisandro Martinez, was he drove forward into midfield almost at times, played alongside Casemiro. Luke Shaw, I'm positive, will be able to do the same thing if called upon to do that. And yeah, look, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's probably most likely what we do with Luke Shaw when he comes back from this injury. And I really don't mind it. I think, yeah, look, if it's going to get more out of this team, if it's going to get us playing up the pitch better, get us moving up the field in a more progressive way, more safe at the back, playing out, then yeah, look, I'm all for it. I really am. We have Sergio Reguilon available as left back. We have Tyrell Malacia coming back from injury as well. So these are players who can step into that left back spot, allow Shaw to play at left centre back, and that gives us the option of having someone who can genuinely carry the ball as well. Obviously, look, we can put Shaw at left back and put him in his natural position, but I think in terms of what we need to do at this moment in time, I would be putting him at centre back when he does come back. Give it a go. Let's see what happens. I don't think it can be too much worse than what we've seen at times this year for sure, and I really don't think it's a bad idea. In terms of other quotes from Erik Ten Hag talking about Rasmus Højlund, he has said if you score in the Champions League 5 times, you'll also score in the Premier League. It's only a matter of time. As long as we a team create the opportunities, and as long as he is convinced, I believe he will start scoring goals in the Premier League. Obviously, look, that's a concern. The lack of goals in the Premiership from all of our forwards. Only one goal between Rashford and Højlund, Sancho and Anthony, Pellistri, Garnacho and Anthony Martial. Our entire forward line has one league goal this season, and that was in August. It was Rashford against Nottingham Forest. So certainly for me, yeah, look, that's going to be something that we need to improve upon as well. We need to get more goals out of that forward line if we're going to start climbing up the league table. Due to the competitiveness that we're seeing at the top, the teams below taking points off them, we find ourselves in an interesting position. As bad as we have been this season, we're actually not too far off the rest of the top teams in the league. We're really higher up than you would maybe think than we are in the Premier League. Look, at the minute, we're in 6th position, but we find ourselves only 4 points off the top 4. Certainly that is an interesting point to be in. Only 7 points off Man City as well. Obviously, big favourites for the league team, probably playing the best football in the country at the minute, winning most weeks. I mean, do I think we're going to go on a title charge? No, we're not. But genuinely, if we do improve the form, we can shoot up that league table, leapfrog the likes of Newcastle, Aston Villa, Tottenham Hotspur, depending on how these injuries are going to hamper them across the rest of the season for sure. And yeah, look, there's a lot more to come from this team. That has to be a big positive. No matter how bad we have played, no matter how little goals we've scored, we found a way to get up the points and win matches when we've needed to. But the level of performance hasn't been good enough. But we know ourselves can get a lot better. It can get so much better in terms of what we're going to be doing on the pitch. And with that, there has to come some glimmer of hope that if we can pick up some form, pick up a run of games where we score goals, start playing well, defensively sound, then we can go on and win even more matches this season. It's interesting. Look, we have not been good enough this year. We find ourselves with a minus goal difference after 12 matches. We have a -3 goal difference. We've only scored 13 goals in the Premier League all season long. I mean, that's a massive concern. That is a concern, but we're finding ourselves up that league table. But performances need to start coming. It's one of those, it's like if you perform well, you have lots of shots, you score lots of goals, and you are still dropping points, you might say luck will eventually average itself out. But if you're genuinely playing really poorly every single week, struggling to beat the teams at the bottom like Sheffield and Burnley and Luton Town like we have done this year, then you have to say there might be concerns there. There might be deeper underlying issues, and the form might keep up with us. I think we're overperforming despite our bad results and the bad performances that we have had. Chat Sport is down there for us, have more goals. Yeah, man, look, that's it is kind of embarrassing as well when we look at it. I mean, Forest have more goals, Crystal Palace have one less goal. It's not good. Like, Everton have scored more goals than us this year. Stephen, good evening to you as well. Thanks very much for joining in with us. Much appreciated, man. But yeah, look, let me know your thoughts on that poll down below, guys. There is 20 votes on it so far. 55% are saying we should sell Casemiro to Saudi Arabia. A further 30% are saying, Joe, if the money's right, maybe it's something we look at. This is a guy 31 years old. If we get a massive offer, 40, 50 million, maybe we go and sell him in that scenario. And 15% are saying an outright no, we need to keep hold of Casemiro. I think that what we're going to see in the rest of the season is really going to dictate a lot of opinion on it. I'm concerned about his performances. He does look slow and off the pace at times. Obviously, look, it's not helping the amount of injuries we've had, the amount of injuries he's had, the stop-start nature of United season so far, the bad performances, the poor results. It's all going to contribute. It is. But I think between what happens between now and the end of the season will be a big telltale sign on his long-term future. Scott said we shouldn't sell him until summer. I would maybe agree with that, Scott. I think a summer clear-out might be in order. I think in January we have to have priorities and we have to know who we want to move on. There's players I think we can move on in January who need to go as soon as possible. I think Sancho will be one of those players, for right or wrong, regardless of the opinion. I just can't see him coming back into the fold. I think Van de Beek should be another one we look to move on in January. I think Martial, if we can, but I would expect to lose him on a free transfer at the end of the season, running the contract down. So I think we might see some players go in January. I think summer is going to be a big one. I can see a lot of heads rolling in that dressing room. We might look at Casemiro, we might look at Varane, we might look at Maguire, we might look at Lindelof. We could be looking as well, maybe if we're talking Sancho or Anthony could be players that might go. Maybe even Marcus Rashford could be someone he ends up going as well. Stephen goes, no European football next season. Look, it might not matter. I will put it that way. It might not matter because we mightn't even finish in a Champions League place this year. The way results are going, the level of performance we're seeing, it mightn't actually matter. But look, to go back to the crux of that story for anyone who did miss out, basically it's UEFA saying there can't be multi-club ownership within the Champions League. Now look, there's ways to work around this. Of course there is. I mean, you have RB Leipzig and RB Salzburg in the Champions League. There is workaround and ways we can do this. Look, ultimately, from what we can see, really, it does look like it is Sir Jim Ratcliffe buying into Manchester United. It's not INEOS, so maybe that is part of the plan to work around the existing laws and rules regarding that multi-club ownership, and that's going to be the way we do it. But I don't know, look, I'm not too concerned about it. I would find it really difficult to believe that Sir Jim Ratcliffe would try to buy this club for the best part of a year, would be in constant talks with the club to buy it, and not expect this or not know that this was a rule or a law within the game, that we couldn't have ownership being from owning two clubs at the same time in the same competition. Look, I think, yeah, look, there's definitely ways we're going to work around this. There is no way that this is hitting him from a blind side. There's no way it's hitting us from a blind side. So I have very, very little concern. Stephen goes, question, does the community think Radcliffe is a bad deal for United? I think a lot of people do, and some people think it's a good deal. Some people, like myself, think it's probably the only deal, and that's kind of where I would put my own opinion on it. I think it's the only deal that's going to get done. It's the only deal that's going to happen. Ultimately, the Qataris didn't give the Glazers their asking price. Radcliffe managed to talk them down to 25%, and they were happy with the valuation, and they come in and they're giving him the sporting control. Ultimately, you know, it is down to the seller who they want to sell to. And I know a lot of people want a Qatar. A lot of people want a Qatari investment coming in, taking over 100% ownership, a lot of money flowing into the club for stadiums and transfers and facilities and everything like that. But ultimately, the Glazer family chose to go a different way, and the reason I think they're doing this is probably because they think if Radcliffe comes in, makes the club successful, then they're going to make even more money. It's kind of like that. Personally, if I was them, I would have took the biggest offer on the table and just ran with it. But I mean, billionaires are billionaires because their minds work different, and it's all about the pursuit of money. So ultimately, that's kind of where we find ourselves with the takeover, with all that stuff. Is it frustrating? Yeah. I mean, we're 12 months into this now. We are 1 year into this journey. It's still not been announced. We're still waiting for the big changes. And really, the biggest change we've had in 12 months is Richard Arnold has resigned his post. And that's pretty much it. Like, that is the top and bottom of it. This club doesn't do things quickly. This club is always a slog to get anything done. It really and really truly is. But it's gonna be what it is gonna be as well. Look, guys, if anyone has missed it as well, we could be without Aaron Wan-Bissaka for the upcoming matches in January kind of time. So according to David Ornstein, Wan-Bissaka has been received an approach to represent the Democratic Republic of Congo at the African Cup of Nations next year. He has yet to make a decision, considering the opportunity. United would lose him from the 13th of January to the 11th of February. So that is another potential long-term absentee that we might miss out on, that we might not have in this team. And obviously, look, that defence has been decimated with injuries. Luke Shaw injured, Martinez injured, Maguire's been injured, Varane's been injured, Johnny Evans has been injured, Delot has been injured, Wan-Bissaka has been injured at times. I mean, the old adage in football is you build from a defence, and you can't win anything without a good defence. That's always been the old belief in football, and that's Sir Alex Ferguson himself had always said that, build from the back, strong foundations. We haven't had a foundation at all, really, all season long, so certainly missing Wan-Bissaka would be a big one, and a big miss as well. Ten Hag's been talking about the intense programme in December. He says, I think we're building confidence. Hopefully we're building a strong belief, and we are building some of the right routines. Now we hope we can more or less stay with the same lineup with 12 to 15 players while constructing the team, because I think so far that's been the difficulty. Every match we've had to make lots of changes. We don't develop routines every time we have to change. Ultimately, yeah, look, I think there's issues that we all know about there as well, and there's issues we know about the training as well. It does look like it's overly excessive. It does look like the Erik Ten Hag mode of training is getting injured and getting players injured constantly. And that's a massive concern, because, look, that's ultimately fitting into what we see on the pitch on a weekly basis. That means we can't have our best team on the pitch at any one time. It means we can't have the best players available, ready for selection, can't have that consistency, can't have that foundation that we're going to build ourselves upon. Yeah, look, it's frustrating. But I think he's got to he's got to dial back on it myself. Scott is down there. The shares Jim Radcliffe is buying is not Glazer shares. It's others share majority. No, he will be buying the Glazer share as well. Don't worry, Scott. That he will be buying that as well. So I think that the way the deal is actually going to be structured, he will be the biggest individual shareholder at the club. Obviously, Glazer family will still have the most shares, but that all depends on them voting and working as a team. And look, they have been divided for a while, with some of them looking just to outright sell the club, and Joel and Avram being the ones pushing to stay on as well. Stephen's down there. We had the perfect opportunity to rebuild. That was Qatar. So Fresh is down there. Good to see you, man. Why are we getting banned from Champions League? We are maybe getting banned from Champions League. The reason is you can't own multiple clubs within the same competition. They basically put out today reaffirming that. Now, look, this is a long-standing thing. We were told about this months and months and months ago. Let me quickly go back to the quotes as well, just for you guys. So the Uefa source has said, as the rules stand, it's a clear situation. INEOS own Nice and are set to have a significant role in running Manchester United. Unless regulations are changed, or INEOS will sell one of their stakes in either club, they cannot play in European competitions unless one is in the Champions League and the other is in the Conference League. Now, look, this mightn't be a concern, because the way we're playing, we might end up finishing in a Conference League place. That's genuinely not outside of the realms of possibility, but certainly it is concerning. So Fresh says, how can we let the deal go through if there's a situation like that going on? Look, I think there is no way that we don't already know about this. I think there is no way that Jim Ratcliffe doesn't know that there would be rules standing in the way of that. But there's ways you can get around it. There really is. RB Leipzig and RB Salzburg both play Champions League this season, and they managed to find a way to work around it. I've no worries whatsoever, really, in terms of that, in terms of what we might see if ultimately Nice qualify for Champions League and United qualify for Champions League. I think there would be ways around it. And I think it's interesting. Look, it's very much INEOS who own Nice. It is not Jim Ratcliffe. It is INEOS themselves. It does look, for all intents and purposes, that Jim Ratcliffe is the one buying into United, not INEOS themselves. So perhaps that's going to be the way we work around it. Chatsport says, would it be good for an owner to have many clubs in football? It depends. Look, it could be good for the clubs who he owned. Like, for instance, look, if Radcliffe owns United and INEOS own Nice and they own that team in Switzerland as well, you could see a feeder club system developed where young players from Nice go to Switzerland, the best players from the Swiss team go to Nice, then the best players from Nice go to United, and the United end up loaning players out to Nice as well. So that's ways you can work around it, and that's kind of the benefits of that. Does it create like an anti-competition thing? Yeah, probably does. But I mean, I've no concern about it. I really don't. I think we'll work around it. So Fresh is saying the thing FIFA worry about should be monopolizing football so you can buy trophy wins. Yeah, look, that is what they are concerned about, and that's what they ought to be concerned about. You know, they really should be. Look, I've no concern about it. I really don't. Look, there's a lot of talk of Newcastle heading up the Saudi League to get players on loan in January to help them with this injury crisis. There's a lot of talk about the best players from the Saudi Pro League coming over and playing in the English League during the off-season. That could be something you end up seeing. Look, these rules and these types of things have been happening for a long time. I'm sure a lot of you guys remember Frank Lampard went to play for New York City, and on the MLS off-season, he ended up signing for Manchester City, and he ended up coming in and playing in the Premier League for City. He ended up scoring against Chelsea, if I do remember things correctly as well. Jordy, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for hopping on in here. Much appreciated. But yeah, look, I mean, I'm not overly bothered if that makes sense. I don't think there's too much concern, really, that we're going to have to face in terms of this multi-club ownership. I think there's definitely going to be workarounds. There has to be. As you know, RB Salzburg are part of the Red Bull group, and they're part of the group, really, that are a feeder club for Leipzig. Leipzig's at the top of that pyramid. RB Salzburg, a lot of their best players go to Leipzig for very little money. Benjamin Sesko ended up going to Leipzig for around 20-something million pounds. And I do believe United had actually went in with a bid of around 30 or 40 million pounds at a time, and it was turned down at one point in time as well. So look, there's ways you can work around this as well. Look, guys, going to look ahead as well to Everton. Everton at the weekend, going to be an interesting match for sure. They're going to be up for it. They're going to be feeling a lot of passion and a lot of anger towards the Premier League judgments and stuff as well. So Frescoes, what do you think? What do you think Messi hasn't given the Premier League a season? Is that something we could see? I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. Look, it's not that there wouldn't have been interest. Ultimately, yeah, he went to PSG after Barcelona. A little bit of a disappointing move. Could we see him come in on a loan now? I mean, I don't know. Like, you have to remember, Messi's what, like 35? He's never really played in the league. And look, as good as Messi's been, I mean, you're talking the best player of all time. He might just want an off-season, and maybe he needs that more rest at this moment in time in his career. But I mean, yeah, it would have been an interesting thought. It would have been, man, for sure. It really, really would have been. Sorry, just to go back to Everton. Yeah, look, as you know, Premier League point deduction, 10 points took off them. There's going to be a big protest for them at that match. They're going to protest the decision by the league. They think it's not fair. I mean, Jordy's down there. Imagine Ruben Neves, Kante and Benzema, Mahrez in your team. Lol, dreams are coming true. I mean, it can happen now. It can genuinely happen. And mostly because Premier League clubs voted against it. I think it was 14 needed to pass as a majority and 7 voted against. So, I mean, it could be teams that would be taking advantage of that sort of stuff. As you know, Chelsea, Todd Bowley's looking to buy into another club. Man City have feeder clubs around the world. I think Forest have as well. And there was other teams who voted against those kind of measures and decisions. So, I mean, look, it's fair game. It's open season. who knows what's going to happen? We could see Tabedo or Thuram or anyone from Nice ending up at Manchester United. We could see United players going to Nice. Berna is down there. Could the Tabedo transfer be a problem, considering Jim is also involved in both clubs? I mean, so long as the deal's met, it shouldn't be a problem at all there, Verna. And the reason why is just what I was saying there. Really, when the Premier League clubs voted against banning that, it means that it's pretty much open season. We can do that to Nice players. We can go bring who we want in from there without any sort of repercussions, either if we're buying them or if we're loaning them. We can do both. And it's the same for Newcastle. They can hit up anybody in the Saudi Pro League. I mean, you could see Ronaldo playing for Newcastle. Who knows what could happen as well. Possibilities are endless. Possibilities are endless. And is it anti-competition? I mean, yeah, maybe, but I mean, it's going to make an interesting time of it as well. And look, as we know, football is not the same game it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, really. And things like this is just going to happen more and more and more. So it's either get on board with the times or get left behind. And United, for the most part, have been left behind by most clubs, really, for the last 10, 15 years. So, I don't know. If it's going to be the thing that gets us back, if it's going to be what we need in January to get us across the line, finish, I don't know, like a top 4 place, get Champions League for next season, then yeah, look, I think that's going to be something we have to look at. Got 25 votes on the poll in terms of should we sell Casemiro. 48% are saying yes, we should. 32% are saying if the money is good, and 20% are going for a no. Jordy is down there. I know the correct reason. Can I know the correct reason why United could be banned? Is that news true? Yes and no. Yes and no. Look, the reason that was given by the by Uefa was they essentially said that you cannot have two clubs owned by the same owner playing in the same competition. Yes, that is what the rules said, but that's not what the rules actually mean in practice. You have Red Bull Salzburg, Red Bull Leipzig playing in the league at the same time. City and Girona could play in it next year. That is something we could be seeing as well. No real talk about that. Is it sensationalized because it's Manchester United? Yeah, probably is. But the actual talk, the actual rules is under UEFA's multi-club ownership rules, the only way Manchester United and Nice can play in the European competitions next season is if one seals an automatic Champions League spot and the other qualifies directly for the UEFA Europa Conference League. If both finish in the Champions League spot in their respective divisions, the team that gets and finishes higher of the two will be in the competition, with the other being banned from European competition for that season. So that's what they're trying to avoid. That's what they're trying to avoid. But look, like I said, you have Red Bull owning Leipzig and Salzburg. Both are in the Champions League this year. Both could be drawn against each other in the Champions League if they qualify next season. Like, because one is an Austrian team, one is a German team. There's technically nothing in the rules against that. That can be done. But that in itself is evidence that you can get around these types of things. You definitely can work around them, and you can find yourself just bending the rules just to suit you. And look, that is something that can happen. It's one of these stories that will come out as like a real sensational piece of news designed to grab people's attention and make them fear and worry. But I really don't have too much of a concern. Look, if Radcliffe has been in this for 12 months trying to buy this club to get control however he can, I mean, there's no way he didn't know about this. There is no way he is just finding out about this rule at this moment in time. I mean, he already owns a club in Switzerland. It's not impossible for them to find themselves in a Champions League spot as well. So he was probably told about that when he took over at Nice, and they managed to work it around, and they worked around that. And I'm positive they'll do the same again. I really am. I'm not too concerned really about the likelihood of any of that happening. Personally, look, that's just my opinion. Look, it might be complicated down the line. It might be something that ends up kicking into gear, something that ends up affecting us in some way, shape, or form. But I mean, I'm not overly concerned about that whatsoever. I'm really not. Any more thoughts, guys? Make sure to get them in down below. Let me know your thoughts on tonight's show as well. And keep voting on the poll if you haven't already. Got 25 votes on it as well. And thanks very much for everyone turning up. Obviously, an earlier stream tonight wasn't expected, but I have to run out at 7 o'clock, really. So, yeah, look, it is what it is. It's one of these things. And And yeah, let me have another quick check as well. Was talking earlier, of course, about possibilities with Luke Shaw coming back, where he might end up playing. I mean, I could see him as centre back. I could see him going back there into that position and stepping in as a left-footed centre back being an option. Ten Hag did name drop him as well in his interview with the press today, so that could be something we see. Interestingly enough, coming from Political in the last 2 minutes as well, Raphael Varane would like to leave Manchester United in the January transfer window. The Premier League club would demand a fee between 20 and 30 million euros for the French defender. I mean, look, Varane's another one. We talked about it last night. This could be a player that ends up leaving. And we have a lot of players at that kind of age. We're looking at Casemiro and Varane and Maguire and Lindelof and Johnny Evans. Maybe Bruno Fernandes fits into that list as well. Players around 30. Eriksen as well. Who really might only have 2 or 3 years left in the tank. Some more so than others. I think Bruno could probably play until he's 50 without ever getting injured. But certainly the likes of Varane and Casemiro, these are players who might have 2 or 3 years left in their career. Do they want to be part of another transitional team here? Do they want to be part of another team that might not win anything for another 2 or 3 years? Is that what they want at this time in their career? Does the project suit them? Are they going to be included in the project? Are they going to have a role within that? And do they want to be here? You know, that's what it's coming down to. I don't think it's going to be a toxic environment. I think it might just be a simple case that Varane has said, or Casemiro have said, look, this is going to take a while for this club to get back on its feet. There's big changes coming. I only have 2 or 3 years left in my career. I can't wait 2 or 3 years for this club to get good. I would like to go now. Maybe that's what they're going to do. And look, both Casemiro and Varane, a lot of other players are on a lot of money a week at Manchester United. A lot of them 250, 300,000 pounds per week. We're going to have to move them on because we can't afford to have those players on those wages sitting on the bench. That's just not going to be sustainable at all for us. We're already struggling with FFP. It hit us in the summer. We missed out on some players because of it. We had to try to sell players, which we are notoriously bad at doing. And ultimately, we really didn't do too well in terms of selling our players. So yeah, look, that's going to be a consideration. That's got to be something that we maybe look towards doing if it does come down to United not having a plan for these players and these players maybe looking to go, then maybe it's time for them to go. Maybe it will be a case that that's the scenario that we find ourselves in. Keep those thoughts coming as well, guys. In terms of the poll, we got 28 votes on it. 46% are going for yes, we should sell Casemiro. 25% are saying no, and 29% said if the money is good. I think a lot of people is going to fit in that bottom section if the money's right. I mean, do I think Casemiro can still offer us a lot? Yeah, I do. Do I think his form has been good this season? No, it hasn't been. But if somebody came in from the Saudi Pro League with an offer of 40 to 50 million pounds for Casemiro in summer, would we take that? I think we probably would. Jarl is under. AWB going to AFCON. Has he not gotten caps for England? No, he's never played for England, so he can play for the Democratic Republic of Congo. They have offered him a place and a call-up, an opportunity. He's yet to make a decision, according to David Ornstein, but I really don't think he's got too much hope of making it into the England team. I think Southgate's a guy who doesn't make a lot of changes and call players up, and he's got Reece James, he's got Trent, he's got Kieran Trippier ahead of him. I mean, there's a lot of competition in there, so we might see Wan-Bissaka going to play for playing for Congo, and that's going to bring up more frustrations because that means we're going to lose him for a month in January along with Onana. I'm not too sure if Tunisia are going, but Hannibal Mejbri might be another player that ends up going, so that certainly is going to be a concern for Erik Ten Hag, for Manchester United. These players, we could miss out on another 3 players for a month after so many injuries and suspensions. And look, there will be more injuries. There will be a lot more injuries coming this season. Double A's down there. Good to see you, man. Thanks very much for hopping on in here as well. I haven't been catching up on the latest news. Well, we'll be banned from Champions League. Yep. Just to go back over that, it's kind of the main story. We have talked about it a few times on tonight's show. The main reason we might find ourselves banned from the Champions League is because of UEFA. UEFA rules say that you cannot have 2 clubs owned by the one guy in the competition. If it comes down to that, which if United and Nice both qualify for Champions League places, then there might be a scenario where whoever finishes higher in their league, so if United finish 4th and Nice finish 3rd, then Nice will get into the Champions League and we will find ourselves banned from European competitions for the season. Is there a way to work around it? Absolutely there is. I mean, you've Red Bull Leipzig, you've Red Bull Salzburg in the exact same competition, and they could draw against each other, they could play against each other, so there's ways to get around this. This will not be new information to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He definitely will have ideas and ways to work around this. I'm positive of that. I mean, he's been in this race for 12 months. He's been owning Nice for a good couple of years at this point. There is no way that this is going to catch him off guard. There's no way he's not going to know about this sort of stuff as well. I would be absolutely stunned if he hadn't considered the possibility of there being some kind of opposition or some kind of rule standing in the way. Jarl is saying we would end up in the Conference League. Yeah, I mean, look, Jarl, I have to say it. We might end up in the Conference League anyway because of where we're going to finish in the Champions League. Double says, sorry, I had to repeat that again. Much appreciated. No, man, it's good. Like, it's all good. Honestly, like, there's not really too much going on at the club at the minute. So, I mean, I have no problem repeating news and stuff as well, like I always do. So, Verna is down there for you. Offload. Big earning players got 100 or 150 million between them. We could have a good transfer window. I believe Ten Hag will spend the money wisely. I think, look, the guys we're going to bring in is going to spend the money wisely. Your Mitchells, your Friedmans, guys like that. I mean, Ten Hag spent a lot of money at the club and hasn't had the best track record of signing success so far. So I think some support will definitely help him there. I think, yeah, look, you could look at good money. If we get 25 million for Rafa Varane, you get 40 million for Casemiro. That's 65 million pounds. You should be selling Maguire. You should probably sell Lindelof. You should probably be selling Sancho. You probably look at selling Anthony. That's a lot of players going and a lot of wages freed up as well. Autocorrector keeps changing it. Nah, man, you're good. You're good. It's all good, bro. Jasper goes, wasn't Radcliffe after a piece of Barcelona and Chelsea before United? Yes, he was. I think really the Barcelona deal in itself was something he wanted. Now, I think because of the way Barcelona is owned, with a lot of, I think they call them the socios or something. It's a lot of fan ownership at that club. So it's they have elections and presidents and stuff like that. Obviously, these are things that would stand in the way of that. The Chelsea bid was interesting because Bowley had already agreed to become the Chelsea owner when Radcliffe bid. Some people took that as a sign that United, he was trying to flush the Glazers out and try to get a price out of them. I don't know. Jarl is going, we couldn't compete in Europa League or Champions League. If there's truth to this, City and Girona in Spain would be in the same boat. Yeah, look, there would be. That's definitely something to consider there as well. I mean, look, you've City, Girona, it's not been talked about. You have Leipzig and Salzburg not being talked about. But once it's Manchester United, all of a sudden it's everywhere. It's front page news. It just shows the difference that this club gets treated as compared to everybody else. Okay, guys, I think we're going to leave the stream here. So thanks so much for joining in. Obviously, shorter stream tonight, smaller stream tonight because earlier start time and stuff. But thanks so much for that there. Really do appreciate it. We'll be back on tomorrow at the normal time of 7 o'clock. So make sure to join in then. We'll build up towards the Everton match at the weekend. And we should also be looking at a watch along as well on Sunday, I would say. Should be live on Saturday as well. I want to have a quick look because AA has put a comment in here as well. The next 3 games are all away. Everton after the point deduction, then Galatasaray and then Newcastle. Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. It is going to be a hard couple of weeks, but I think we'll get through it. Verna says, not his fault. The people around him couldn't negotiate deals. No, absolutely not. He had no real support. But I think, yeah, look, having people who know what they're doing, working alongside him, it's going to help him a lot if he is going to be the long-term guy at the club as well. And Scott is done. Keep up the good work. Don't worry, man. Of course I will. Thanks very much for that there as always, guys. And yeah, have a good Thursday night, whatever you guys are up to. And I'll catch everybody tomorrow at 7 p.m. UK time. Thanks so much for watching, guys.